Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with our first grand finalist, the former world champion Terran in the red. It's Micro Jackson, ByuN. Facing off against the best player from the United States of America in the blue, the battle mage, Astrea. A best of 5 Terran versus Protoss final showdown and the new proposed StarCraft 2 balance patch with major changes to the early, mid, and late game, but no major changes to my methodology for begging you for likes, and maybe even, if you enjoy, subscribes. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,464 likes on this video, on this cast. I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways. I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. ByuN opening up with the 2 gas to start things off. A quick factory, but also an expansion on the low ground, making use of this new map, and the new map pool as well, Ultra Love, which, something that we already added to the patch notes, with the Ultra being able to shove its friends out of the way so it can lead the charge. But also, somehow completely unrelated, this crazy lightning storm map. And speaking of lightning storms, Storm itself kind of pseudo-buffed by the removal of shield battery overcharge and the addition of energy recharge, where on a 1-minute cooldown you can have the Nexus slap down a power bank of 100 energy on any unit or a shield battery. Not the Nexus itself, because we still pretend to care about the laws of physics for some reason. But none of that will help with 2 Reapers in your main and a Hellion in the natural. The probes are pulled off the line, but a citizen's arrest is going to be a difficult thing to execute with ByuN's well-versed Reapers. Hunting it down, tries to put a zoning grenade, bounces both of them, gets another probe on the way out, and the Reaper... Wow, 5 kills, gets away with murder, hops right on out, and Blink is not nearly close to being done enough to chase it. Well, ByuN hops in, and somehow one of the Reapers escapes, with a total of 5 probe kills between both sides of the attack. I was busy pontificating about all the patch changes that, if you've watched some of these videos, you probably have learned of at least piecemeal, but I expect to see most of them between these two. Assuming ByuN is unable to kill Astrea in the first, 7 minutes of the game, which it doesn't seem like we're headed towards that direction. Astrea is one of the most defensive Terrans out there. Sometimes to his own detriment, but he really focuses on building. That's why he's called the Battle Mage. He wants to build that later game army composition with more spellcasters than Hogwarts, and so many little details that have to go right, but when they do, make you start questioning why people play any other race. And there's the hallucinated Phoenix to draw out the Widowmine. A single... Well, actually, they still got some Marines and a mine in there, but... What is that? Is that... Labbot? What? You know, the Protoss should be able to hire that one. Get an extra probe early. Meanwhile, the Reaper back into the main. Blink Stalker's chasing it down. Almost kills another probe, mostly coming in for another scout. But Astrea and that energy recharge ability, I'm assuming, are going to get very significant use. I already see the hallucinations coming across, which kind of precludes the need for having an observer right there every time you want to poke around with Blink Stalkers. But, of course, having the hallucinated Phoenix there... Oh, almost able to kill that Widowmine. Gets away before taking any more than she... What? Wow. Okay, that blinks away again, but Astrea... Well... You built that barracks 2 pixels too far forward, sir, and we're here to enforce zoning regulations. Violently. Another SCV dies. Unfortunately, there's no more vision. Observer's on the way. The Banshee's headed out. Does he have cloak? No, just a casual Banshee. The ByuN special. And that medevac looking mighty vulnerable tries to get another volley, but almost ends up getting got himself. But then the medevac almost boosts into the Stalkers. ByuN moving out. Astrea doing what he can to whittle this down, but has to be careful not to lose too many Stalkers himself. That is a dangerous early game army. The Banshee, no cloak. Blink Stalker's already on its tail, unfortunately terrestrially bound, unlike the Banshee itself. And what other units are there here for Astrea? He does have that shield battery, even without overcharge, still a help. But the Immortal already taking big hits. There's nothing else to recharge here. Shield battery itself going to be targeted, but the Immortal getting some good hits. Probes come off the line to try to hold things down. Might want to blunk onto that tank. Tries to draw fire forward. Manages to take it out. 9 probes dead so far. But Astrea with the slinking back with the Stalkers minimizes the losses to his army. And even though he lost probes, ByuN doesn't have a third command center to work with. He doesn't have that extra economy to kind of bounce back out of this. He's just now starting it, realizing, this game might go past 2 bases. So, Astrea, despite taking a temporary economic hit, is going to stabilize on 3 bases, and because he was able to keep so many of those Stalkers alive, he now poses an existential threat to ByuN's main base. Every bit of this army could very technically get into ByuN's main. The Colossus could just step its way up. The Blink Stalkers, of course, blink. And the Observer manages to dodge a scan as ByuN picks up and heads for the main. So far, Astrea has ByuN's number. And is unafraid to call it. Though, ByuN is picking up, not the way you'd expect. Because who picks up their phone nowadays? Come on, let's be honest. A Spylon, he's 2 steps ahead, or whatever it is the probes have, but flies directly over the Spylon. There's no energy for recall, but ByuN is not going to take that chance. Just drops out and takes out the Spylon there. 4th base is already on the way, but Astrea is holding it down. This is some of the cleanest early game that I've seen from him. Obviously, well, TVP is a whole lot of little details that add up very dramatically. It's like a Bob Ross painting, all right? You don't make mistakes. You hope the Terran has a lot of happy little violent accidents. And if the Terrans are unable to get that map control, then if you're able to comfortably get to 4 bases as Protoss, that means you have the gas, or at least, in this case, Astrea just going for the minerals, to flood the field with enough gateway units that they can't just pick them off. And that eventually leads to being able to counterattack with huge amounts of charge lots, which, even for the best Terran players, are difficult to deal with. 20 charge lots showing up in your mineral line while you're trying to fight the main army is a recipe for borderline disaster. Meanwhile, observers on the bridge. We'll see who breaks first. The 2 little weirdly generic-looking highway lanes across from the black hole void in the center of the bridge. I'd like if it sucked units in that died nearby. It'd be a nice dramatic effect. Some of that ragdolling. Well, ByuN building Ghosts and Vikings. Ghosts at 3 supply now. So taking up just a bit more space in the army. Leaving the Terrans with slightly less ability to spam out things like... The most obvious comparison is 10 Ghosts now is 1 full less drop, which is 10 supply in most cases. Whether it be Marauders or Marines. Or the Ghosts themselves. I guess a drop of Ghosts is now more supply, but that's a bit pedantic. Scouting Zealot taken out. May actually cover for the fact there's an Observer there, so ByuN may not expect it for now. Of course, Astrea knows the map is dark and full of Terrans, and that's why he's lighting it up. Spylons, Observers, Scouting Zealots all over the place. Yes, ByuN will knock a couple more out, but it's a constant war against the darkness. Trying to keep vision lit up across the board, Astrea. Now building some Ruptors, which do a lot less damage, only 100 damage, which is enough to one-shot a Marine and barely one-shot a Ghost, but does not one-shot Marauders, though they do have a larger radius again. So, pretty more reliable damage, just less of it. We'll see how ByuN does. Fires off the first shot, pops the Ruptor, but that drags him directly into the charge lots. Guardian Shield already pre-popped here as he chases down the Zealots with it, minimizing the damage overall. That's a lot of Stalkers. Will that be enough to break through as the EMPs wash across the board? Upgrades or even Vikings hit the deck. The Blink Stalkers brawled it out on the field. More Zealots trickling in, and it looks like Astrea just barely has enough to take something resembling a victory. Another curveball. I take it back. The medevacs start to win the war of attrition. Astrea battered down to 113 supply. Stalkers on their own only have their weak little legs to stand on. Another round of EMP softens up the front line, but the concave, well, looks like the Terrans broke before the Stalkers did on the bridge. Astrea fighting over the center bridge. The only place he can hope to get a concave against that army. The only place he can hope to bring to bear his entire army while denying ByuN the same opportunity. And now he's working on Psionic Storm, but ByuN has not taken any economic hits. There is no Warp Prism out on the field. There's no real other options besides fighting head on. So, is it going to be good enough? Remember, the ghosts are a bigger part of the supply, and with energy recharge you can have maybe some more storms to work with, but that's still a bio army full of marauders there, and those things do not go down easy. The Widow Mines to zone out, but Astrea working around the edges. It's gonna come down to the Battle Mage and his spellcast. A single Zealot before the planetary finished killed 6 SCVs. And the Templar. The first Psionic Storm softens up a lot of the army. Blinks away from the Widowmine. Does not have Drilling Claws, so is revealed immediately. But 2-2 is done as another cinematic of Zealots is warped in on both sides. 2-2 completed. 3-3 upgrades start immediately for everyone. Astrea with Chrono Boost should have a slight advantage as time goes on, but right now it's about even. Oh, feedback! Just in time to interrupt the snipe. The Templar felt a disturbance in the force and also saw a sniper line, but here comes the rest of the army. Stalkers link to the side, open up a lane for the Zealot. They're charging and eating some of the Widowmine hits. Another EMP lands across the Templar, but the medevacs are low on energy and the bio army's in autumn colors as Astrea brawls it out on the field. Another EMP knocks out. The Immortal might be able to be taken out, but the medevac count is dwindling, and Astrea now has 14 gateways. He's able to replenish so much of this army. He's got 3,600 minerals per minute and 1,000 gas. The Zealot's gonna take down that sensor tower. 2 Colossi on the way. Trying to keep 2 or 3 Colossi in the army at all times in order to force Vikings into the composition, or just make it that much harder for ByuN to be able to engage and disengage so easily. Astrea holds the bridge, and he has 5-6 bases. ByuN's just on 4, but he's adding more command centers. What a game! One of the most action-packed, back-and-forth, skirmish-filled Terran versus Protoss. I don't know how much to attribute just to the players, how much to the new patch, but I'm really liking it. Terran versus Protoss historically has been a very kind of one-and-done sort of matchup, where if a single engagement doesn't end the game, it kind of ends the action for like 3 minutes until both sides can rebuild. But we haven't had much of that at all. Both of them vying for map control. ByuN trying to pick off reinforcements. Will kind of successfully do so, but a storm will ward him away. Already. Well, Astrea's actually lost 4,000 more resources, but only 200 more gas. So you can do the math on the rest. He's really leaning. He only has, well, he has 4 bases of gas geysers. I'm not sure he's mining from all of them, but he's mostly just mining the minerals at even his new bases with his 89 probes. The booming American economy now paying off for Astrea as he invests so much in those minerals. And 3-3 about to complete for both sides. No significant difference. Plus 1 air weapons for Astrea as he starts a Stargate and looks to head towards the skies. The Tempest now costs 1 less supply, though a slightly less anti-air range, which in general could be considered a buff. Being able to add more of it into the army is incredibly helpful. And I kind of think, well, I think Astrea's anticipating a switch to Liberators, as that's usually where we go, as another storm lands and softens up the army. ByuN going for a massive flank here. EMP's on the low ground, but Astrea split his force as well. The Colossi are standing tall to the north, and the charge lots are warped in to ward away to the south. ByuN bit off more than he could chew, and now Astrea is shoving it back the way it came. Oh my. A decisive victory for Astrea as ByuN tried to break him there. But Astrea hid. Hid is maybe a strong word, but he split off a couple of his Colossi and a bunch of his gateway units, and he drew ByuN into the Colossus fire. And those Colossi now have 50 more HP, but 50 less shields, which has seemed to kind of dramatically shift how these fights go. Terran's a little bit less capable of sniping off Colossi before the fight really starts. And it really shows. Well, here we are. The fleet beacon is lit as Astrea calls to the skies for aid. He knows that it's not going to be enough to fight him on the ground as long as ByuN has the concave, the ability to bring all of this damage to bear at the bottom of the ramp. The only way to circumvent it is go through it or above it. Ship weapons level 2 completed for the Vikings. The disruptors warding away another Colossus, eating the brunt of the damage. Astrea a little bit slow on the draw, loses his Colossi. More Vikings gonna go down. EMP's already pre-queued up. Another Templar gliding forward. Both sides still maxed out. Astrea with a lot of money in the bank. And a fusion core from ByuN. But Astrea has anticipated the switch to air and already has his Stargate and +2 Protoss air weapons coming up. He's got tectonic destabilizers on the way. Anti-building damage. Disruptor slams into some of the ghosts. The Archons will eat some more EMPs, but they take several to soften them up completely. The Bio Army really trying to press through, but blinks to the side to open up a lane for the Zealots yet again. The Disruptors will go down. Oh no, the Zealots are stuck! Oh, this is exactly the kind of fight he was trying to avoid, but so far the Zealots able to move around. Disruptors come around the bend, soften up the Vikings. Blink Stalkers over the top, and ByuN is cleared off the field. ByuN, once again, trying to dive in and rely on his micro, but Astrea more than well prepared. Even though he's switching to the capital ships and the mass Colossi, he still has more than enough on the ground and enough in the bank to deal with it. But ByuN, he's on the ropes right now, but a Terran player is almost never dead until the last orbital falls. 6 Liberators in production. Disruptor shot clips a very unlucky ghost. Only 8 SCVs dead thus far. Most of the army is charge lots for Astrea, 19 of them on the field, but he's now expanded to his entire half of the map. He's at like 7 bases, 86 probes. Liberators coming up, a storm! Category 5 on the ramp. Gonna knock out a few more of the Liberators. Orbital burns, pulls away. Tempest and Templar, anything but temporary parts of the unit composition for the Protoss as ByuN scrambles to get enough supply to fight off Astrea's next wave. But so far, the American Protoss in command of this game, making another wave of cannons. And unlike against Zerg, you can stack your cannons like this because they don't have nearly as much splash damage. Sure, EMP could be vulnerable, but the DPS density of the cannons is priority. And now the Tempests are being added in. Not so great against ground units, but helping out and drawing fire from the Vikings as well. And now we're in the awkward scenario of both players contesting one of the last places on the map. The command center gonna try to land on the Nexus, but that's against regulations, so something must be done. All right. Advanced ballistics completed. The Tempest already on the field. EMP softens him up. But there's not enough Vikings. He desperately needs Vikings against the Tempest. The Liberators and the Marines are not going to cut it. Astrea using them so well right now. Right over the top. This is their siege breakers. That's the purpose of Tempest. Something to snipe out the entrenched units of your opponent. They haven't always been great at that task, but they are the best option for Protoss at this stage of the game. All he needs now is an Oracle for Revelation so he can maintain vision of this area a lot better. That's the only thing that's really struggling here. Another Disruptor around the corner. Snipes off the Ghost before it even matters. More Vikings on the way. ByuN pushed up against his own orbital command, but really doesn't want to give up this position because then Astrea can pin him back at the natural. Oh, those observers overhead knocks out even more. The Tempest, the storms the historical and practical counter to Vikings, and softens up even more of them. 2 Colossi, more Vikings down. 6 at a time, but Astrea has the Federal Reserve in the bank right now. 5,000 minerals, 3,500 gas. He has the map. He has both corners. He's 3/4 of the way to the bingo strategy. Well, right now, ByuN may never financially recover. What is this? There's a command center trying to fly to the next map, which may be where he's headed if it continues in this direction. Astrea has to be very careful of a potential base trade, because that is how things go sideways. And you don't really want to go sideways when you're already ahead. You'd rather continue to get more ahead. So splitting off the charge lots and then just making sure that ByuN can't get his army out without you seeing it is the way. Astrea doesn't have too many probes right now, 86, but that means his army supply is lower than ByuN, who's only at 64 workers, and a mothership is on the way. The mothership, now with significantly more damage, it can fire at 4 targets at once. It's back to 400, and it has a little more HP and shield, so a bit more of a hero unit. Also, it can't be abducted, but I don't see any Zergs here, thankfully, so... The Vikings chasing down the army, but ByuN really struggling. Astrea has lost a similar amount of resources, but he's now mined 10,000 more minerals and 3,000 more gas. So, ByuN, at this point, Astrea is now kind of mining his part of the map, at least if you consider one of the corners nominally ByuN. So, there's multiple flavors. This is Astrea in a nutshell. A very complicated nutshell, but a nutshell nonetheless. We got Disruptors, we got Tempests, we got Blinkstalkers, we got Immortals, we got Templar as well, and the Colossi backstopping. The only thing we don't have are Sentries for Guardian Shield, but even that might be a bit much. The Tempest count, and again, Astrea has kind of led him into a concave. He keeps picking these fights so well. And ByuN, for better or worse, usually better, has played the same style of Terran for a decade, if not longer. And it feels like Astrea knows exactly what he wants to do. He wants to either bully the Protoss in an overwhelming fight, like so, or go into a base trade. But so far, Astrea is blocking both options beautifully, and the mothership has arrived. He's set up so many static defenses, and he hasn't committed to a full-on engagement on ByuN's side of the map. He's always backed off before it became untenable. So, ByuN doesn't really have an opportunity, unless Astrea makes a series of mistakes, to base trade. And now that the mothership is here and can be used for a second recall, it's even less likely to be plausible. And now Astrea sending the probes. I love that as a power move. I'm always like, one part of me is like, why don't you just kill your own probes so you can immediately replace? Oh my god! That's so many cannons! A dozen more! The CPM is rising precipitously. How do you even get through that? A great wall of cannons! Build the wall and make the Terrans pay for it! And they'll pay for it in blood! And metal. As 15 probes die, which was intentional. You could always kill your own probes and rebuild that army quicker, but it's such a power move to send the workers out, which is why everyone does it. Alright? It's easy enough to just kill your own probes, but it doesn't have the same emotional impact. ByuN is maxed out with nothing in the bank. Astrea could rebuild his entire army, and then some. ByuN's army is actually worth about 20-30% more. So, if he gets the right angle. But Astrea is acutely aware of that. He's recalling the mothership? Yes! ByuN still, like, make no mistake. We've seen so many of these games, but at the same time, Astrea seems to be really locking this down. There's been too many times when a Protoss player seems too big to fail, and then the Terrans just either throw it into chaos or win a fight so decisively you can never rebuild. But Astrea is successfully... He's not passive, but he's certainly defensive. There's a big difference between the two. He's played an aggressive defense this entire game by staying right at the very edge of ByuN's army and picking off any units he can the moment he gets too far forward. ByuN now has 13 Ghosts, 16 Marauders, 13 Vikings. Wow. He's maxed out. I think this is where the Ghost nerf is really having an effect here. Does he have a nuke? Why did he cloak a Ghost? Oh my god, he's sniping Templar with a cloak Ghost. What a play. Meanwhile, fadeaway shot from the Ruptor, but goes forward. Another shot. That one's gonna hit. Cores out the Ghosts in the center mass. Astrea holding the line, but ByuN is tearing right through it. The Vikings still fighting overhead. Another storm. ByuN, I think, trading pretty well. And if the money was even, that'd be great. But Astrea is rebuilding 3 Tempests, 2 Disruptors, an Oracle. He's got Observer Speed, plus 3 Protoss Shields on the way, which also helps the cannons, the only upgrade that does, as well as plus 2 Protoss Air Armor. There are 34 cannons on the map. He's lost 5 throughout, so he's built about 50 cannons throughout the game. And, well... He is not... Oh my, he's trying to build another outpost here. This is actually a lot of minerals lost for pretty much nothing. But clearly ByuN is struggling to even put anything on the field. He's down to like a base and a half of mineral patches. He's modding them with all the meals he's got. But through all the fire and fury, the Terrans have just not been able to break through the defenses. Astrea, oh my god, cataclysmic storm! And that might be it. The Vikings overhead getting gunned down. The Stalkers and Tempest. The Disruptor zoning out. Another Ruptor shot slams into the Ghosts and bowls him away. Astrea able to chop off another chunk of the army. ByuN, that's not a happy scan. Oh my. The tower defense. He sees all those cannons. ByuN's like... And then he builds a nuclear missile. Well, that's probably the only way... Honestly, of all the options on the table, that's probably the only one that has a chance. That's how desperate we are. The Disruptor, a little short there, but more of them slamming into the Ghost. The Vikings in an awkward spot, trying to storm. Disruptors, an awkward engagement on the low ground here. And actually, Astrea the one getting outflanked. The storms clip some of the army. Wait a second. There's one more storm, maybe? The Templar. Oh, that last storm was so important. I think he energy recharged some more Templar, but ByuN is able to turn it around. Astrea fought on the open field, and that's where the Terrans are strongest. But the reinforcements, I think they're just too much. He takes down the rocks. That Ghost! Oh god! Crushed underneath. It's very hard for units to be caught under the rocks, but it will kill. It does 500 damage when it drops. So technically, I guess an Ultra might be able to survive. I'm not sure if armor affects rocks dropping on your face. Buildings will usually survive, but he's cannon rushing. Late game cannon rush. Astrea has survived. ByuN almost broke out, but that makes it all the more dramatic as Astrea finally closes it out. The Disruptors are too much. The Mothership has survived. The Zealots continue to be warped in as Astrea has managed his money more than well enough. And he's able to take down one of the best Terrans in the history of StarCraft 2 in decisive fashion. Wow. What a play. It didn't really feel like the difference. Sometimes it feels like, oh, he just ran into Storm of Disruptors. You've seen those fights before. This matchup, Terran versus Protoss, has a history of being kind of underwhelming at the end of the day. I want to point out, Astrea's using Stats' portrait in-game, which, great choice. The Shield of Ire, who is back to playing Asterisk. I haven't seen any of him lately. I'm not sure if he's going to be playing more, unfortunately. But, yeah. What was I saying? I derailed my own train of thought. Like and subscribe. Not what I was saying, but I'd like to get that one out there. Yeah, the matchup has really felt a lot very polarizing in that there are certain phases of the game that clearly favor Terran and Protoss. You've got the very early pre-warp gate aggression. And then you have the Blink Stalker phase. Everyone knows about that one, obviously. And then you have the tank push phase. And then from there, honestly, usually Protoss, if they're able to survive the tank push phase, has an edge through much of the rest, up until like the first max out of Ghost Viking. I think much more than any other matchup, for better or worse. Okay, I'll say for worse. It's because Terran and Protoss units are so incredibly good at killing each other. Like, whether you blink into the wrong spot, or you get hit by a Ruptor or Storm, it's just so quick that the game can turn. Which is why it's all the more impressive how many skirmishes, how many drawn-out fights they had. And that's ByuN's forte. That's his specialty, is just that constant brawl. But Astrea hung with him. I really love the way he baited the fights. Like, he drew ByuN into a slightly better position, and then that's when he revealed his full army. He gave ByuN just enough rope, if you would, in order to make sure the outcome of those fights went well. Totally not biased for the American player at all, either. All right. It's a weird spot for Protoss. Like, everyone hates Protoss, TM. Because on the ladder, they're a menace. Winning best of ones on the ladder, sometimes under a barcode. Like, filthy, right? Like, everybody knows Protoss, not for their late-game macro play, but instead for pick-a-cheese. Cannon Rush, DT Rush, Void Ray Rush. But at the very pro level, like the top 16 players in the world, Protoss doesn't exactly... the skill ceiling is different than Terran or Zerg. I won't necessarily say lower. Remember, ceiling, not floor, but the ability... There's an energy recharge. The ability to get so much out of your units, more than, like, just A-moving them. But it's always been more complicated. Astrea has... I appreciate how Astrea... Well, one, for those who don't know, he was not a pro player. Oh, no. Well, that's not going to change. If you didn't notice there, you could see the little outline on it, but Astrea just a bit late. He was so low level at the start of Legacy of the Void, I could hit him on the ladder. Like mid-Grandmaster. Humble brag. Which is lose 99 out of 100 times to ByuN, and the other one he disconnected. But he went to Korea after a couple of years, and he trained in Korea and became... And while he's still not, like, at the very bleeding edge, he's one of the top 5 Protoss in the world. And he is a kind of a testament to actual work ethic in StarCraft 2. Which, not to undersell everyone else who's at that top level, but he's one of the few players who kind of really worked at it in the Legacy of the Void era of the game, I guess. And not a player who was so young before Legacy of the Void that now they just kind of came into their own, but made an active effort. Which, especially for North America, is quite rare. So we'll take what we can get. I think I was also talking about, I appreciate how he stuck to his battle mage style. It would be maybe a bit easier to at least try to steal away some wins by playing that much more cheesy, timing-oriented Protoss style, like a Zest or a Parting, which obviously has its own strengths. But playing the full Protoss, don't you do it. Thought he was going to blink into that tank and completely prove me wrong. He's got a Templar Archives already on the way. Also, I just can't get over him. So, Max Pax is a different person entirely. And I can't get over how, and this is publicly available information, so I'm not doxing him. Astrea's actual name is Max Angel. Which just it sounds like a superhero. That's like a Peter Parker. All right, Max Angel, aka Astrea, the hero of Protoss. But yeah. If anyone should be called Max Pax. Well, three Spylons put out here, as Astrea looks to zone out. So this game, significantly less skirmishing. A lot of time to contemplate pro gamer names and their implications. But finally, ByuN has built up to move out. This is the tank push phase we were talking about. And by we, I mean me monologuing in your ears. Shout out to my blind viewers. Kind of have to. Charge. Feedback. Onto the medevac. Saves the Spylon. Save the world. No, it's dead. Never mind. World's dead too. We'll move to the next one. Astrea has a whole lot of charge lots here. Widowmine's coming out and mitigating the damage. Offers up a sacrifice. ByuN diving in towards the northern base, the fourth. Undefended, but only 6 Marines here, so working on the pylons. Astrea, ByuN hasn't even taken a third yet, but the worker count for Astrea isn't particularly high. Ooh, so it's slicing up some of those Marines. We got low gravity on this map. Our first map that doesn't have, like, underwater gravity, but it has low gravity, like moon gravity, which I have been raving about for a long time, saying, like, why don't we get some of these sort of maps? It's not super obvious till the big fights happen, but really cool to see. Since map makers don't have a lot of leeway to be creative in terms of map design, the aesthetics, on the other hand, the feng shui, is something you can work with. And generally, I really love the kind of this almost steampunk-esque aesthetic we have here. Mixing it up. We haven't had a map of this sort of tile set for a bit. Oh my, ByuN. The blink and the storms could be devastating. I think he saw it with the observer, is why he was moving to intercept, and some zealots on top of the siege tanks. ByuN getting caught out. Astrea, and there you go. Wow, Astrea doing great work with the warp prism here. EMP whipped out, but there's nothing to actually deal with this, and a legion of zealots is warped in. A few probes dead to whatever's left of the dregs of that drop. Vikings take down the prism. And Astrea does run the risk of overcommitting too many units onto ByuN's side of the map and leaving him without enough back at home. God, stalkers are struggling. And the probes eventually help clean it up. Astrea's at 74 workers to 61. That means ByuN's army supply is significantly greater. Astrea now adding in 2 Colossi. He's getting +2 ground weapons and +1 armor. Extended thermal lance just started. So there is a very Dangerous window right now for the American. ByuN will have a larger army with comparable upgrades, and honestly a better unit composition. Oh, the EMPs could be devastating, but instead the storms are on point. ByuN wandering into the army and not realizing it for a bit too long. The ghosts will lead the charge somewhat. But that... Oh, the base is undefended. He moved out of position. Uh-oh. Oh, this is problematic. The Widow Mines, that's a lot of probes getting caught. Astrea slightly out of position. ByuN retargets onto the Immortal and kills a Templar with the Widow Mines. Oh, very nice Widow Mine micro. It is a thing, all right. And it's a lot more obvious nowadays with the targeting line. But ByuN, he's able to cut off the base, kill the probes, and get away with it. And now, Astrea is in a much less comfortable spot. He needed to have those Colossi to engage. Otherwise, ByuN's army just shaves off bits and pieces of the gateway units. And he just didn't have them in time, and he didn't have them in position. And now ByuN is up 20 supply. The only thing Astrea... Well, Astrea has the rest of the tech going for him. But ByuN can carry this momentum a while further. Astrea's acting like he has 4 or 5 bases. He has plenty of economy. He simply doesn't right now. Then again, if he survives to get +3, +2, if he survives to get a mothership, if he survives to get his unit if he survives to 200 supply, well, then he's in a great spot. And if ByuN lets him do so, that's on him. He just started 2-2. ByuN sits back for too long, Astrea will get all these kind of stretch goal things. But I wouldn't be surprised if he moves out again momentarily, as he's about to max out. There's no reason to sit back with this sort of army composition. It doesn't get better with time. I guess upgrades, but the Protoss are going to get upgrades quicker. That's what Chrono Boost is for. So now moving forward, ByuN pretty much maxed out. Trying to be very careful here. Astrea's done a great job of jumping him on the field, but ByuN is adapting to it, sending out a few units ahead. Gonna go through the rocks, a much more direct path. Oh, spots a Templar, EMPs it. Storms from the left flank. Astrea gets a feedback. A couple Stalkers zoning out. Astrea trying to slow down the freight train of Terran right now. Another full energy Templar gets 2 feedbacks before the EMPs can land. There's still one more Templar on the back. Not sure how close energy recharge is. But Astrea trying to box out. ByuN splitting off some of his units. An observer may spot it momentarily. He caught a glimpse. But what can he do about it? He warps it around his zealots, but those are just freebies. He can't really recall to this base. He's gonna try to move to intercept. But ByuN, again, annexes the northern nexus. 2-2's on the way. +3 is now completed. 4 command centers. +2, +2. There's the fleet beacon and a Stargate are vulnerable. Another army fighting heads up. Disruptor shot point blank range. Not gonna be enough. The Marauders get to it first. Beautiful storm on the Vikings. The army getting cleaned up. Astrea slowly but surely stabilizing. But he will lose so much of his economy. ByuN, maybe overextending a bit, but he's compounding his lead. Tenuous lead. With 4 more command centers, more starports. He's got 3-3 upgrades on the way, +2 ship weapons as Astrea tries to add mass Tempest. Mothership is in production. Meanwhile, the Tempest shelling. Blinks out of the Widow Mines. A very... Well, this is a dangerous time now for ByuN. He wasn't able to get decisive damage before Astrea built this late game. Like, Astrea survived. He went for all the stretch goals. He went for the maxed out upgrades. He went for the maxed out tech. He's going for a mothership. And now he's got it. Like, so ByuN has been unable to stop Astrea from building up this composition yet again. But the Viking count, it's got almost a Scandinavia of Vikings right now. Knocks out a Tempest. I'm not sure how many Vikings it takes to take out a the storms. Multiple oracles to keep Revelation on the Vikings. Battle Mage yet again. Maneuvering everything into position. And ByuN with those autumn-colored Marines and Marauders. Look at the vision again from Astrea. Doing a great job on that right side of the map. Keeping vision all over where ByuN could be counterattacking. And it's starting to trend towards the American Protoss yet again. ByuN, the army size advantage he was unable to capitalize on. He's gonna have 3-3 in about 20 seconds, but Astrea kind of spoiling for a fight. And now he's maxed out, so there's really no reason to wait. He's got four oracles with the army. EMPs across the board. Vikings looking for an opportunity. Storm softens all of them up. Disruptor around the corner. Oh, that's a big hit. Able to knock out the ghosts and soften up. And a stasis as well. He's got a little bit of everything. The oracles are wandering in to the Vikings. Most of them will die, but so will the Vikings as well. Colossi tumble. Astrea has remaxed out, and now is finishing +3 ground armor. Hasn't started any shield upgrades. He's waiting for... Well, that army just melts. And Astrea. ByuN unable to capitalize. And he's just building the Mass Viking. Honestly, I don't know what the answer will be past the Mass Viking. We've seen that be the answer in the past, but Astrea is just handling it. The Tempest costing slightly less supply, giving Astrea, with the Ghost costing more and the Tempest costing less. I think the changes have tilted this situation just slightly more towards the Protoss. Though, well, there are 5 Tempests on the field, which is another 5 supply. That's another couple Templar. The Vikings are not getting it done. The Disruptors certainly are, though. The Vikings are knocked out of the sky. Is there enough left on the ground? More than enough. But still, 1 Colossus, 5 Marauders, 6 Marines, and 4 Vikings in production. But Astrea is building 6 more gateways, bringing him to 16. +1 shields on the way. Dark Shrine as well. We've seen very little of that. I don't know if he even got a Dark Shrine throughout Game 1. Blasting away. The Tempest continue to pick away at the edges. I don't think he has Tectonic Destabilize. No, he doesn't have the Dorito-dusted anti-ground attack, so doesn't have the anti-building damage. But Disruptor's finding connections. There's a Stasis. Even throwing Stasis into the mix. The Vikings... Is he doing a Viking counterattack? I don't know if he saw a Warp Prism or... No idea what the Vikings are looking for, but... The Protoss army. Astrea on the attack now. A bit of a dangerous proposition. Fadeaway shot. Disruptors. Ooh. Didn't quite target that Disruptor in time. But now gonna recall the army. Loses 1 Tempest and a few gate. Oh, he recalled with the Mothership in order to make sure everything came through. But Astrea may have made the mistake of actually committing to a fight. Another Ruptor. Wow. Those Disruptors, you know what? Seeming to be Quite a dramatic effect. That's so many Vikings. Oh my god. 17 Vikings overwhelming the air. And the Terran army is ripping through the ground. Astrea is trying to pull it together. But ByuN is tearing it apart. The Storm's Vikings in the time warp. The mothership with active cloaking helping out. Scans on everything. Astrea's out of money. 17 probes. And he will hold, but at what cost? He lost all of his Tempests, all of his Colossi. What an expensive engagement for both sides. Neither player going to be able to recover from this. We'll just have to see what's left. Astrea's able to rebuild. He kept the mothership alive. And the mothership may have actually made the difference here. Well, there's +3 air weapons for the Protoss. I have no idea here. This is kind of uncharted territory. You'd usually think that a Terran with this much of a supply lead, but Astrea's down... Wait, ByuN has 80 SCVs. Meanwhile, Astrea is down to 56 probes. The Tempests have a lot on their shoulders here. Some good storms, but the EMPs land. He's just Ghosts and Vikings right now, to be honest. The income... Well, that tells the story. I think ByuN has turned it around. Trying to chase it down. The mothership helping to soften up a lot of the army. But Astrea, he's playing zone defense here, but another base. He really can't afford to lose another Nexus. But I don't know if he can protect one either. Disruptor shot follows through. Mothership in the front. Does he have a time warp ready? No, it was just used. And the mothership falls. The disruptors wander into the fray. The bio army is too strong on the ground, and ByuN strikes back. We got quite a series on our hands. These two just brawling. Another incredible back and forth game, but ByuN able to hold on to it. Astrea never really got that, like, unbreakable economy. He never had 20 cannons at his outlying bases. And he did... That was the first time in the entire series of... Wow, it's been almost an hour. That he did kind of a panic recall. Where he just recalled because he was in a bad spot. Almost every other one was kind of a tactical repositioning. But that was a, I need to get out of here right now. Which obviously is not ideal. So, we're all tied up. A surprisingly even match. By all respects, ByuN should be the heavy favorite here. Like, 80% chance of winning outright. Something like that. According to statistics and past history. But, I do think the patch has significantly buffed Astrea's style with energy recharge, with Tempest being a little bit more plausible. Even with the Disruptor being a kind of a middling option. Whereas it has nerfed ByuN style. Who, ByuN loves Ghosts, alright? Not even like as a turtle unit, just as a, let's throw that in my army. They're not a bad fighting unit either. They have more DPS than a Marine against especially light units. They are by far the most dangerous auto-attacking spellcaster, of which there are very few in the game. The only other ones are Sentries and High Templar, I think. Or Queens. You're goddamn right, Brenda. Not today. Not today. I thought we got rid of Protoss. No, not... Sorry. Twilight on the way. So, Astrea tried Stargate once, flew his Oracle directly into a Widowmine, and we're back to the Twilight Council. Which is a pretty good summary of how that exchange has gone throughout the history of SC2. Alright. Stalker now builds 3 seconds faster out of the gateway. Only the gateway, not warp gate. Which puts it at about the same speed, I think, as it builds out of warp gate, or at least the cooldown. But helps get a little bit more early, but still the preference is getting a sentry out in a timely manner in order to use that energy recharge for hallucination. But it looks like Astrea is intent on a bit of outright Blinkstalker aggression here. Whereas ByuN has opted for a Widowmine drop, which there's a chance that Astrea just slaps this down and then counterattacks into a game-winning position. Rarely does it go so directly one way or another, but it's on the table. Especially if the Phoenix spots them. Watching. Well, this is awkward. The Stalkers are actually moving out to potentially engage it. He has to know that's a Widowmine drop. He has a second hallucinated Phoenix to try to keep tabs on it. Nope. Come back here.
Additional supply depots required.
Be on a bit supply block. And more Stalkers warping in. The Raven, I don't think will quite spot it. He's just trying to evade any units out on the field. He's not scouting with this Raven. And that means a very dangerous amount of Blinkstalkers is now on the... Oh, he's got to be quick. Hallucinated Phoenix is timing out. Though he could energy recharge again. But he's got a couple seconds to use it. Blinks into the main. There's no tank here. It's on the low ground. He's going straight for the stim. He's going to get it. Stim is denied, but the Widowmine drop makes its way into the main. Astrea goes for it immediately, not offering up any sacrifices here. Meanwhile, the Stalkers have no way back up. The Widowmines and an auto turret doing a lot of damage. Not actually killing probes, but keeping them from mining for quite a while. A single tank. Oh, no, no, no! 8 probes, 9 probes, 10 probes. Terrible, terrible damage has been dealt now. The Widowmines, Astrea, eating the shots, are gonna blink on the tank. Really doesn't want to let it get multiple hits off. The Stalkers doing what they can, but that Widowmine drop got the damage. Like that, 10 probes is... That's too many, on top of the fact he wasn't mining for a whole lot of it. Here we go for the blink on the tank. There's charge on the way. Astrea still has... He's finished his 3rd Nexus. Even when he goes all in, he doesn't go all in. Like, he's very heavy into these Blinkstalkers. I don't believe he has a Robo. No. No Robo, just mass gateway. Now charge on the way. Double Forge. ByuN just trying to... survive the onslaught now. He still has a Raven. Just a couple more probes. The mass charge lot could work. I like what ByuN's done with these supply depots. 1 more gates on the way. I don't know if they're intentionally hidden. Raven will scout the forge. Medevac will be scouted by this Stalker. Also going for the Raven in the main. I do like how Astrea has set up his base. It's a big part of being able to deal with drops later on in the game. though. This pylon is powering a suspicious amount of gateways. He's left a lane to be able to move through, because so many times, too many times, we've seen Protoss kind of trapped in a prison of their own design. Astrea has a worker lead now. ByuN is just starting. He's about halfway done with his third command center. While Astrea is working on his fourth nexus, which is another situation of if he can get away with it. Concussive shells finishing up. 1-1 is on the way. Astrea desperately wants to wait until those upgrades. That is his best chance to crush this army. He has 8 gates. Oh, those upgrades are not quite done, but he can actually fight the army from the back. Widowmine will slam the point home. He's just fighting now. But the Bio army is very dangerous. Astrea able to chop off the front. Oh, shield battery, but he might be able to just evade it entirely. Yeah. Gets a couple more kills, but meanwhile, Astrea's chasing down. He gets a siege tank. 1-1 now done. Blinks forward. That's a lot of bio, though. And some more Widowmines, and he cuts off another group of the Protoss army. The bio army. Astrea trying to brute force it. Backs off before critical damage can be done. The Raven finally put down. Nevermore. Stalkers blinking back. The Zealots coming around again. No more upgrades for Astrea. Just desperately try to put enough units on the field to fight this, but so far coming up a little short. Especially with the mass Widowmine to help zone out the charged lots or do critical damage. The Zealots are going to be required as something to cut off reinforcements at the very least, and they will do so. The Widowmines at the back could work both ways. ByuN, oh no, those Widowmines hit hard. But the Zealots are able to get a full surround, good force field. Softens up more, gives a better angle to deal with this, needs another warp in desperately. Astrea, where are the Zealots? Another Widowmine will burrow, but be taken out in time. The +1 armor, he's microing back. More Stalkers getting the damage done, try to knock him out. More Widowmines coming in, doing damage to both sides. Blinks out of another mine. It doesn't seem like Astrea has enough reinforcements to deal with this. The Nexus itself is being targeted. The probes are pulled off the line. And Astrea is crumbling. That Widowmine drop at the very start did so much damage. And he's been desperately trying to put it up on the field ever since. The medevacs are nearly out of energy. That bio army is badly bruised. Astrea wants to fight it before it can get healed up. It just seems optimistic at this stage. All he has are 8 gates. He's working on 2-2 upgrades, but they're still quite far off. The Zealot, Astrea needs to come around again. That Nexus. Oh, ByuN not stimming because his medevacs are so drained. But Astrea, no cancel. He's just going for it. He needs to win this fight decisively, and he's not going to. The Terran army turns it around. The upgrades will not complete in time. A Zealot or 2 is helpful, but he needs more at home. Widowmines will burrow yet again. Another couple Zealots knocked out. And GG. ByuN goes up to match point. He turns it around yet again. ByuN able to find the damage and take control of the situation. Just not quite going according to plan for Astrea. He's always dangerous. Astrea jumped through a lot of hoops in game 1 to make sure ByuN couldn't find his way back into it. But he hasn't had the position to do so in the past couple matches. So we'll see if Snowpiercer is where he can turn it all around. I do think, well, once the Widowmines landed, I think the mass charge out was the best shot Astrea had. Oh my. Excuse me, sir. Did you know that's not your base? Hello? He's gonna proxy 2 gate, and then he's gonna try to sell it. by sending the probe in a normal pathing. Uh-huh. He actually redirected the probe. Well, we'll see. Feels like every game, the proxy, he's gotten more and more aggressive. This very well could work. Not a max packs build, but instead just a full-on 2-gate. And this is so far back. There's actually a surprising amount of space back here. And a Nexus back at home. Reaper kills the probe. Reactor on the way. He's gonna build a Stalker. That Stalker build's just a little bit quicker. ByuN not scouting for it. This feels like one of those builds that may work once, and then it'll be scouted. But ByuN kind of scouring. He's looking around. ByuN seems suspicious. Well, his suspicions are warranted, as a Stalker is on the field. There's the Reaper. Oh, grenade. Getting what damage he can. The SCVs, he's actually going to come down and fight. To some extent. SCVs will repair. Astrea trying to get it. He doesn't want to go in. He's just going to stand on. Now, this is quite a quandary. Do you sacrifice the Stalker? Is it worth it? Or does the Widow mine? Well, he's got an Adept on the way across. So he's anticipated a need for something here. He can use the Adept. Okay. So he may force it with the Shade Cancel. All right. We'll see if he can time it perfectly and whether ByuN... I'm sure ByuN will micro against it, right? Yeah. There it is. Oh, no! 3 HP. He does still have high ground vision with the Shade. Is he going to try it again? No, it's already too late. That one Widow Mine just... I think at some point you just sacrifice the Adept. If he sacrificed the Adept, then maybe it would have been worth it at this stage, but now a Siege Tank's going to be out, so... I don't know if he noticed the tank. He definitely did now! A Stalker pummeled into oblivion. Yeah, that Widow Mine forcing a lot of respect out of Astrea. But he has successfully carved out his expansion. So, has the amount he's delayed this been worth it? That is the question. Proxy very clearly spotted. The Siege Tank does cover... Wow, he's gonna go for it. Huh. He warps in at the proxy. That's certainly a play. That Widow Mine still. You know, he didn't even repair it, which is a bit disrespectful. Eats a Siege Tank hit. Eats a Widow Mine hit. I don't know. I feel like the Siege Tank's getting enough done. He picks off another Marine. It's gonna go down. Is there a robotics facility? So there's Flying Dark Templar and regular Dark Templar on the way. A Shrine to Dark. As well as Cloak Banshees. But without any sort of detection at... Oh, no. This has been such a great series from Astrea, but like so many Protoss. Playing a great series doesn't necessarily mean you win it. And there is absolutely... This is an unmitigated economic disaster. Oh. There is no rope. He's just gonna try to base trade. He's proxied for Dark Temp, but he's gonna see the Dark Shrine. And ByuN has saved up scans and has... Oh no. Not like this. Oh. I feel like I need to sit here for 10 minutes for a moment of silence to stop any spoilers from the timestamps. But Astrea with a descent into despair after a masterclass in the first game. But again, the early game dominated by the Terrans. And as time goes on, the Protoss with a lot of ability to drag it back, but that does seem to be the trend in the new patch. ByuN, the heavy favorite, comes out on top, unsurprising. But Astrea, again, as always, showing flashes of genius, but fading out quickly before you can blink. A heartbreaker, but a great set of games as well. I think showing a full spread of the potential of Terran versus Protoss. So I hope you enjoyed. If you made it this far, it'd be awesome if you could like and subscribe. And might I recommend another great Terran versus Protoss with the clickbait? Please watch this game. Trust me. Showtime versus ByuN was also a great one. A very different sort of Terran versus Protoss, but I really enjoyed that one as well for very different reasons. I won't tell you who wins, but thank you for watching. If you got the means and motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. Thank you to the Stegosaurus Cup, which is what this is from, one of the new weekly cups. So if you get an opportunity to check it out live, I think Pig casts it a lot live on mostly Monday nights. I'm trying to give shout outs here so you guys can check out the tournaments live, because even though obviously we're watching replays, I think there's something about watching live that's worth it as well. And hopefully you think my commentary is worth taking another look at afterwards, if only in, podcast form. But either way, Patreon, YouTube membership, second channel, Winter Gaming TV. I've got a new Blue Sky account as well if you like memes, which is pretty much what that's going to be used for. But maybe we'll put that link in the description too and start working on that. But otherwise, thank you for watching. I hope I made a big chunk of your day just a little bit better, and I hope to see you next time. Good luck, have fun, stay chill.